Wilkerson. This video has been a long time coming. We are going to show you around Mike Power's S15 we built about 2 years ago to compete in Formula Drift. We've been working with Mike Power for 2 years, building him and maintaining this S15. The first year we built it, competed in Formula D Pro 2 as it was called at the time. That was the 2020, and it's been a great car, super reliable, really no complaints from it at all actually. We've had some help along the way with tuning and wiring and some other aspects that we don't do here in-house, and everybody that we've brought onto this project or has helped us has been like spot on. It's been a really cool project. Mike's had a really good 2 years driving this car, a couple podiums, top 4 finishes, and he's going to step up to Formula Drift Pro 1 next year. This is the end of 2021 season. It also did some Hoonigan Burnyard stuff at SEMA, so it is well used. So what you're going to see is a rather dirty used car, but trust me, still pretty cool to look at, if I don't say so myself. I'm really excited to show this thing to you. It's a really cool car, and me and the other guys around the shop have really put a lot of love into it, a lot of little details and a lot of thought into the build. So hope you enjoy. The interior here, the cage from Top Garage. Really nice cage with these big NASCAR door bars. Sabon doors, and Mike likes to run windows. These are windows from Plastics for Performance. They're super trick. All we have to do is install them. OMP safety equipment, HTER seats, steering wheel. I have a couple products from HGK Racing, including this pedal box cover and their handbrake. Big fan of those handbrakes actually. Dry carbon dash from Monster Service out of Russia, I believe. Tilton pedal box, Tilton reservoir up there. All plumbing, XRP stuff, as you know we do. Motec electronics. Outside the ECU is an M-Tron KV8. And then we use a Motec dash logger, Motec PDMs. This is the back seat here, so you can also see he's got a little sippy cup, right? Fire suppression, Motec PDM. There's 2 PDMs. There's one here. This is what what we call the rear PDM, and then there is also the front PDM under the dash. Nitrous bottle mounted over here as well. M-cell cutoff switch. And over here on this side we have a fresh air pump for his helmet as well. Hiding down here, also in the passenger rear, is a chill out cool suit system. Very cool, does not use ice water. It uses Freon, so it actually chills the air like an air conditioner. Very trick system. That gets plumbed around here, and it gets its fresh air intake from this NACA duct in the quarter window. You can see when Shane installed that, he put the extra time in to bevel those edges. Very unnecessary, but very trick. There's a lot of little details like that on this car that I probably won't even be able to touch on most of them. It'd be cool if you could check this car out in person sometime for sure. HGK handbrake. Shifter is a custom one that our friend Justin Pollock actually made for Mike while he was stopped off here on an East Coast leg of the FD season. Justin is a good old friend of ours. He used our shop, and during some downtime he made Mike a new shifter because he wanted to play with the lathe. This thing is super solid, not gonna break. Very straight, very direct shifts. And the gearbox that I'm rowing here is an Andrews A431. We'll show you. New FD rules as of a year or 2 ago, you have to have a fire resistant SFI shift boot. So we made a custom tin panel here that raises the boot up to get the proper height, and it removes very easily with just 2 Zeus buttons. Most all of the interior sheet metal uses these Zeus buttons, and we had designed it that way just to be easy to service so we can get to the top of the gearbox tunnel. We have some hoses run up under there, and then over here we have the dry sump oil tank. Again, also uses those quarter turn Zeus buttons. This here is radiator plumbing, runs through the car That over there is your battery wire, and we also have a nitrous hose run over there as well. Up here we have the keypad, controls everything you need to do with the car, other than obviously the driver inputs, and then also the chill out system, and then this is just a kill switch, shuts the car on and off for the driver. You are seeing this thing as it was raced. We didn't even clean it up or anything after the season and the demos. So under the hood might not be as pretty as we might keep it, but here it is. Admittedly a pretty impressive engine bay. There is a lot going on. So we will start with the engine itself. It is a standard 3-liter stock block and stock crank, rods and pistons. The bottom end is assembled by Titan Motorsports down in Florida. All this head work is done by Head Games, uses GSC cams and upgraded valve springs, retainers, valves, etc., etc. These billet valve covers are very trick. So 3-liter, makes 800 horsepower, uses a Garrett G35 900 turbocharger, and we're using the larger AR currently on the hot side. Made it up with a Future Fab turbo manifold, Turbo Smart 60mm wastegate. Thing is massive and it works exceptionally well. All the hot parts are coated to try and keep the underhood temps down. We have a couple extra sensors in here that you may or may not be familiar with. We have 6 individual EGTs, 1 for each cylinder. We have exhaust back pressure. Turbo speed is being monitored, as well as on the Turbo Smart wastegate we're measuring wastegate position. So that actually measures the valve, its movement. Same with the blow-off valve. We have blow-off valve position as well. Again, Turbo Smart product. Competition car, no regular vacuum hoses. We use XRP AN hoses here to make sure nothing ever pops off on us. Boost control, standard MAC valve, controlled by the ECU. Up here we have our nitrous system, which is basically just used for a little more power and torque under the curve. Nitrous Express. You might recognize the Alaria product. This is our S14, S15 catch tank. Bolts right in here, works really well, and that stuff is plumbed around and through the firewall to the dry sump tank, which is under the dashboard in there. Another sensor you might not recognize coming out of the valve cover here, this is crankcase pressure. Engine is mounted solid using an HGK motor plate. That's a pretty trick part. So it's mounted perfectly solid to the chassis there, and that spans the whole front of the engine. It includes what would be the oil pump, and we are running a dry sump system, so daily engineering, dry sump pump there. We don't have any belts on it right now. We're in the middle of working on it, but all XRP hose, of course, running 2 from the dry sump, and these are our radiator hoses, upper and lower. They run back around through the trans tunnel and then into the interior cabin. While we're on the oil system, we run a set drive oil cooler with a little fan on it here. Pulls air through the intercooler and the oil cooler. All the piping is Tycon material, titanium we welded here. It's nice and light, works really well for that. It's also pretty strong as well. If we get into a front end collision, it does not crumple as much as aluminum might. A very short cold pipe here, and you see our nitrous injection. It's just one single dry shot before the throttle body, which is a Bosch drive-by-wire throttle body going into a Plasma Man sheet metal intake manifold. Very nice part. Plasma Man fuel rail, fuel injector clinic injectors, more XRP plumbing on the fuel system, Turbo Smart fuel pressure regulator. Also have fuel pressure and temperature sensor there by Bosch, and that's our map sensor right there. Over here we have power steering reservoir. Here you can see the bulkhead connectors on this really nice harness made by Outbreak Autosports. You see this bar running through the engine bay here. Again, pretty tight packaging, long engine. So we put the front sway bar way out front and up here, and that crosses right over in front of the engine and has these sway bar arms to clear the big angle the WiseFab allows us. Tubular front end we built out here. Nice narrow bars, plenty of crash clearance here. We don't really like to run the bars way out here, which you'll see. Keep them nice and tight, and then have a thinner structure here that holds up the fender and your headlight. That's really all you need. That stuff's easy to repair. Plenty of crumple zone. Nitrous bottle here on what is the right side or passenger side of the car. Helps distribute some weight. It's also really easy to get to. Back in like 2013, 14, 15, I remember seeing Matt Field's guys had their nitrous bottle here. I thought it was a great location. And they had like Zeus buttons to remove the whole window. I took their idea of going through the side window and just spiced it up a little by hinging the window so that it does not actually need to be removed. And a quick latch there so that it's really quick and easy to get to your nitrous stuff. You can also access anything in the back here, since it's really tough to get to any of this stuff with the seats bolted in, and the rear firewall is permanent. Speaking of rear firewall, behind it we have a 10-gallon fuel-safe fuel cell. Some Radium Engineering products include the FCST surge tank, or in-tank surge tank, and we use one of their header tanks for the coolant system as well. Nice and tidy plumbing and wiring here. For the fuel pumps, this bulkhead here is all the wiring for the back of the car, which really isn't much at all. We have fans, fuel pumps, taillights, really. That's it. That's all we have going on back here. Fuel fill, just move it to the side of the car, makes it a little easier to fill. Move a little breather hose up here. Injector dynamics. ID 750 fuel filter, as always, on a car we put together. So the rear mounted radiator gets its air through this cavity here, and it's a CNR radiator. It's made for like a dirt modified, but they work really well in our situation. This one, as you can see, has some stuff in it, especially around like where the fan pulls through. We try and clean it out throughout the year. It just gets stuff in it. It's kind of part of drifting, so we just clean it out. It still works really, really well though. This thing always runs cool. We made these little deflectors for the side. They kind of help channel air inside, and they also keep some of the debris from the rear tires here from coming in to the side of the radiator. Inside the back of Mike's car here, which has been massaged on some walls and repaired numerous times this year. Lots of little patchwork throughout, stuff you don't really see when it's flying across the track. Here is that radiator again. This little top panel again helps keep debris out. It also helps pull air in from the front and not have the air from the fans actually pull air over the radiator, which is it's an issue some people don't think about, but it does happen. Two big spall fans. Back here we have our fuel suspension shock canisters mounted here. Little brackets that hold your radiator up. Rear sway bar, also similar to the front, a lot less complicated arm setup though. We have dual batteries mounted under here, and the rear crash bar stuff, as you can see, it's all multi-piece. Everything bolts together and is modular, which makes life a lot easier when it comes to repairing your car. It has the mandated one single crash bar that spans the frame rails, and then we have individual corner crash bars that we can flip, swap, exchange depending on the track. Something like Irwindale, for instance, you have a lot of right-hand walls on the right-hand, left-hand turns, and so you're never really going to damage that left side of your car. So for that reason, it is always nice to have individual crash parts per side. Lots of space for wall taps. Just some 1/2-inch rod holds up the back of the bodywork, and it's very rigid, works very well, and it also lets it slide because it's just mounted to a tube there. Starting in the back here, you can see the underside of what I showed you earlier of the rear skeleton, so to speak. And you can really get a sense of how much daylight there is coming through here, providing all these crash zones. Plenty of space between your bumper here and anything of importance. So 2 Optima red top batteries under here. Tiny little tow hooks we added just so we can strap it down in the trailer. Again, the car's pretty dirty. This is rubber, just tire rubber all over the place. That's what happens in the back of a pro drift car. So yeah, you can see a better view of our fans. This runs one of our Big Dog winter quick changes. This has all the upgrades in it. He used to run one of our standard quick changes, and while he never had any troubles, it was time for a rebuild. So when we rebuilt it, we put in the bigger 35 spine input shafts, steel inserted spool, and the Vasco Max lower shaft as well. So this thing is as beefed up as you can get one, just for peace of mind. Again, we are in the middle of working on it. So the axles are out of it right now, but it uses drive shaft shop heavy duty axles. Suspension is the same front and rear, all Wisefab stuff. It's treated us very well, honestly. No real issues. Feel 442 two-way adjustable coilovers up here. Another shot of this rear sway bar. What we did was, instead of using the factory pickup point here on the control arm, we picked up off the back of the rear knuckle and put a big reinforcement plate on there, added a double shear clevis there, and it just makes it much easier to access and get to. And we can also keep the sway bar further back. We don't have to have like a 2-foot long sway bar arm in this case. So that works pretty well. It also uses our modified subframe. These are available on our website, as are these. You can get all these same parts for your own drift car build. Uses a drive shaft shop aluminum drive shaft. Titanium exhaust we made using all Taycan components. We mounted the water pump nice and low. The water lines actually come from the radiator next to the fuel cell there, underneath of the car, to the water pump, and then get bulkheaded back into the cabin right here, and then they run along the passenger seat into the front firewall. Over on this side, it's just some plumbing. We have brake lines. It looks like a lot because the car uses 2 calipers in the back. We have some fire foil, just a little extra protection and to keep heat off the fuel. I got a little close here, so we added a extra little skid plate there. It's probably unnecessary, but we obviously ran over something at some point in time here. Drive shaft loop per the Formula D rulebook. Here's our Andrews A431 4-speed dog box transmission. These things work very well and they're very simple. Big fan. Fabricated cross member, of course, to get that to fit in here. Over here we have a reusable Setrab oil filter, which is pretty nice to have. CD Products oil filter housing, and XRP plumbing, of course. SFI bell housing as per the rules as well. We fabricated a downpipe. We put a flex pipe in it. Might not be necessary, but a little extra flex zone. Big, like 2.5-inch wastegate dump pipe. Mike's a fan of the earth burner style wastegate dumps. Like a lot of guys shoot them out of their hoods, but this is a little more subdued, and I believe they're louder as well when they bounce off the ground. I don't know if there's science behind that, but I'm pretty sure. This power steering bypass valve here, all custom steering shaft stuff. Power steering pressure sensor, so we know his steering pressure. You can see that on his dash. There's our big, beautiful billet daily dry sump oil pan, and that is hidden behind. We use a rack forward subframe from Bink Industries. We have a power steering cooler here. That's what that is, laying flat there. This other little vessel here is actually a secondary catch can. So from the Ilaria tank, the drain from that comes down and drains into this little vessel here, which basically just allows us to go longer between draining the breather tank. It has a little ball valve on it, so all we have to do is like slide a little pan under the car. We don't even have to jack it up. Reach down, open the ball valve, drain anything that might be in it, and keep on going. So some more of the HDK parts here. That motor plate and front cover all billet, super trick stuff, daily pan, dry sump pump, and this is actually a KRC power steering pump, and it's driven directly off of the back of the oil pump. So there is no power steering belt. Front suspension shot from below. You'll see WiseFab stuff. Again, we modified it for our own sway bar pickups. This is actually just a little bit further outboard, so a little more effective than the factory location, and also much stronger, and allows us to use a rod end for our nice long links. And here's a better shot of those sway bar arms. We did a video on these. You check our previous videos. I made these in one of those videos. You can check it out. Very cool. Lots of space. Even pocketed them on the mill to take a little bit of weight out of them. Same shocks in the front, Fuel 442s. Custom brake lines we made here. Lots of length. I like to put a lot of length in brake lines on drift cars. On the soft line, we use hard line everywhere up until the wheel wells, and then a long soft line in case you do break an arm or a tie rod or something and your wheel end up moving around. You're a lot less likely to snap or break a line if it has some extra length in it. The brake system is all Willwood components, and these brackets are from Brink Industries as well. Super lightweight, very thin rotor. It's only like a 1/4 inch thick, so very lightweight. All we really need on these drift cars, at least for now. 6-piston front caliper, sitting pretty behind these stage wheels. These wheels have held up really well all season. See the crash bar set up here. Nice big radius bar on the front, and then a little kind of cone kicker bar down there at the bottom. I really hope you enjoyed this video on Mike Powers' S15 Silvia Formula Drift Pro car. If you have any questions about it, leave them in the comments. Be happy to help. If you're interested in having a car built yourself, shoot us a message. Meanwhile, take care, everybody. See you on the next video. Thanks for watching.